There's no place to escape to.
This is the last podcast.
On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
Nice.
Is everything hot?
That's nice.
Is everyone feeling hot and nice?
I feel hot and nice. Hot and nice. Oh, how do you like your soup? I like it hot, and I like it nice. Put some oyster crackers in it. Is it got potato cubes in it? No? Good. Because that's not nice.
Yeah, you don't need potato cubes with oyster crackers. Double carb.
All that is filler.
Yeah.
Give me the meat.
Right.
I want meat and broth.
All right, this is the last podcast. On the left, I am Ben Kissel with Marcus Parks. Hello. All right.
What's wrong with that?
It wasn't a way that people say that's not a response.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. Hey.
All right.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were being kidnapped.
Right. Like I was walking. I was free. Oh, no, I'm not. All right. Henry,
Who am I?
I don't know. Who the hell are you?
I don't even know anymore.
All right, fine. So you're not going to do a character?
Isn't life but a stage?
Shinrikyo, part 4. We're wrapping it up.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up. One of my favorite series that we've ever done. This is one of the most fascinating things that we've ever covered.
These people are dangerous, and they are Japanese.
That's right.
So and I'm going to congratulate myself on how racist I wasn't.
Yeah. You get a B.
You know, I get a B. And guess what? I don't know if I'm going to make it to the end of this episode. We'll see if it stands.
All right. So by the end of 1994, Shinrikyo and Shoko Asahara, nigh invisible, these guys were feeling. They had millions, if not billions of dollars in the bank. They had 40,000 members worldwide and a stockpile of chemical weapons that were capable of murdering tens of thousands of people.
You did say invisible.
Nigh invincible.
Yes.
They were very visible, quite overweight.
Oh, yeah, he was fat. And he did smell a great deal, and they had several compounds.
Yes, nigh invincible, excuse me. And then, on January 17th, 1995, Asahara received what could only be interpreted as a gift from God. An earthquake in Kobe, Japan, a city with a population of about 1.5 million, killed 5,500 people in just 15 seconds.
Please,
Wow.
It is Black Mamba, Japan.
Not bad.
And much like our old friend Lord Rael, Asahara took a natural disaster and used it as proof that his prophecies were coming true. And Harumageddon was going to definitely happen in 1995.
Well, technically, in the very beginning, he modified it because he originally said it was anywhere within 1997 to 2001.
Nice window, yeah.
Yes, he was giving himself some time.
Right.
Because you remember, in a cult life, and especially a cult leader's life, he's building a narrative, and so he needs to push the end chapter for as long as he can make it. And at this point, it's just like his followers don't really know that he's gonna make sure the Harumageddon happens.
Right.
But what you imagine is that once it hit 1997, Asahara was gonna go back and fiddle with the timeline and being like, "We will get first the Mets have to win the World Series.
Michael Jordan will retire."
Yes, exactly. So we're looking at 2002 to 2005.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what these doomsday cults do. They're constantly moving the goalposts, and they can see, like, with, like, just for example, Rael, who we're all big fans of Lord Rael here. If you don't know who Lord Rael is, go back and listen to some of our past episodes on this false messiah.
Also, we are going to do an update on Lord Rael actually coming up.
We absolutely are. But what Lord Rael does is that every time there's a natural disaster in the United States, he comes out and he says, I made this happen. I made this happen because you did not believe in me.
Because of the karmic debt of the world.
Yes, the karmic debt of the world. By God, man, Shoko Asahara is what Rael wishes he could be.
Absolutely. Because Lord Rael is sitting in fucking Baja, Mexico, smelling his own nut smell right now. Asahara was doing the same thing, but he had billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And guess what? Your nuts smell so much sweeter and chocolatier than when you're also sitting on billions of dollars.
Oh, yeah, you smell the money, too.
Can you imagine how much you'd love to smell your own dick if you were a billionaire?
Oh, my God. I couldn't get enough of that. I would
there,
package it.
I would literally all day just dig in between my dick and my nuts going,
Yeah. Hey, what are you doing? Are you smelling your own balls? No, I'm smelling a billionaire's balls.
It's a billionaire's nuts.
So
And he's
it's
just like,
totally different.
can I?
Yeah, exactly. No, you cannot.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And because of those billions of dollars, Asahara could actually back up his claims. He could actually make Harumageddon happen. I mean, the AK-47 factory, it was slow going, but it was steady. Their chemical weapon stash rivaled that of any actual nation besides possibly Iraq at the time. And all evidence available points towards them being well on their way to obtaining a nuclear weapon. They were essentially a state unto themselves at this point.
We gotta get Jean-Claude Van Damme in there.
We really did, but the problem is that he'd just start staying for the bush. And then once they put the gel-covered electrode hat on him, he'd be too groovy to fight.
Yeah, they flip him, and now we have to fight Jean-Claude Van Damme.
And then I can't handle it either way. You know what you do? Is that you trick him into doing the split. And then you move the post that he's got his feet up towards the ceiling. Snap his balls in there.
Wow.
Now, Asahara was telling his... also, this is also where people were on a need-to-know basis so deeply. While they were making these AK-47s in these factories, the people that were even in charge of the factories didn't know that they were making AK-47s. He told them these were metal factories, and that they were producing metals. And then he'd be like, why? And he's like...
Right.
And they're like, oh, fuck yeah. And he's just like, yeah, dude. And he's like, what? And he's like, dude. And he's like, yeah. And then fucking Stephanie Seymour came out in a fucking mess suit.
Oh, yeah.
You remember her?
I do remember her.
Totally, yeah.
Very
Apparently,
true.
according to the blind items that we read on page 7, she fucks her son.
God, that's
Oh,
awesome.
doesn't she know?
Great for him.
So he got to be in twice.
And by the way, Henry is guesting on page 7 for the next few weeks.
Hey, check me out.
Very nice.
But, they had all of this stuff. But fortunately for the people of Japan, the 6-year murder spree that had begun with the death of the Sakamoto family was finally starting to catch up with them.
It always does.
After 6 years of a murder spree, doesn't it just gets exhausted? I
Spark leaves.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It just, you lose the snap to it. It's like an old pair of underpants.
You know what? I was thinking about keeping him alive today. I think I lost it.
So, Shinrikyo's plan for Harumageddon came crashing down with the murder and abduction of a 68-year-old notary public named Kiyoshi Kariya. So Karoshi Kariya's sister had for years been a steady cash cow for Shinrikyo, hooking up with the cult through a yoga class like many people did. What?
Yoga's nefarious. I am so against yoga, it's ridiculous.
Yoga's great.
If you go as a single man in Williamsburg, you will do well. Like, if you walk into a yoga class being like, I'm just trying to learn how about myself, I want to center myself.
I don't know.
Girls are going to be like, I like you.
I think I'm going to start breathing through my nose a little too heavy, and they're all going to think I'm trying to smell them like they're a billionaire.
So by 1995, Kariya's sister had given $600,000 to Ohm, but when the cult started to pressure her to sell all of her property as well, she got the fuck out of there. And Asahara, furious that a member had left, as he always was, but probably more concerned about losing out on a super sweet land deal, he ordered cultists to find her and bring her back with all haste.
I tell you what, if I lose out on a land deal, nothing makes me madder.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
losing out on a land deal, or if I drop a sandwich onto the floor while I'm walking down the street in New York.
Yeah, or if you're like late to San Francisco during the gold rush.
Oh, I'm late? What year is this? It's like 49ers.
You're going to miss out on a land deal.
Oh, what about the 52ers? I'm
Yeah.
one of the 52ers.
No, I'm sorry, it's 49er.
God damn it. What am I going to do with these overalls?
3 passed.
God damn it.
Yep.
So the 4-man team that Asahara sent out to kidnap this old lady, to try to find this old lady, they figured that the best way to find the woman was to kidnap and torture her 68-year-old brother until he gave up her location. So one evening after work, the team found the old man, bundled him into a van, tranquilized him, and took him back to the compound.
Again, remember, this is a legion of MIT dropouts. That's how I put it in my head, right?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of super nerds that he acts are like stormtroopers. But literally, you have a bunch of nerds go and grab an old man, and they're just sticking needles into him. And what happens when you just have a bunch of people who don't know how to kidnap somebody, and they kidnap them?
Oh, the kidnappee dies.
Yeah, that's what happened. And you don't grab an old man. You seduce children with candy, and you seduce old men with flax. You open up the van door and be like, "Hey, how you feeling?"
See, what I do is you open up the van door and you go like, "Hey, look, you know what's in there? the good old days.
Oh my God.
Oh, you mean back when music was music and kids respected men with high pants?
Whatever that means to you, yes.
All right, well, I can't wait to see old Bessie again.
Oh, it's going to be so sad to be old.
So after they accidentally killed this old man, his body, like so many others, was microwaved and dissolved further by nitric acid before OHM members dumped the body sludge into a local lake known mostly for water sports.
Debbie, I gotta say, this is the best beach trip we've ever had. Yeah, Brad, I can't believe I had my period earlier this week after all that pushing you did in me. Tell me about it, Debbie. Oh, let's go water skiing.
Did a piece of human sludge just hit me face?
Oh, I hope so, because if not, my period started again.
But what cult members hadn't counted on was that the day before they kidnapped the old man, he had written a note to his son saying,
I was abducted by the OHM Supreme Truth Sect. Definitely.
So, with such hard evidence in their possession implicating OHM in a disappearance, Tokyo police started to plan a full-on raid, the largest they had ever done on the Tokyo compound.
Because again, as we said before, they were waiting on hard evidence to finally go in there and look at everything. Because before, their entire chemical weapons plant was hidden by literally a fern.
Right.
They literally put up a plant, and then it's like, I thought this was chemical weapons plant, but they put parrot on branch. Must be a zoo.
Yeah, it must be. You're a B- now, by the way.
Hell yeah. You know what?
Scale.
I don't care. I want to fail.
But OHM, as we said in the last episode, had members in both the police and the military and were warned of the upcoming raid the minute planning for it began. But unlike other raids, at this point, it was impossible for OHM to scrub their entire compound free of evidence that they were not only planning out an all-out chemical assault, but that they had an AK-47 factory, a military-grade helicopter, not to mention the makeshift prisons and the world's largest underground drug factory.
They should have used those speakeasy waiter trays.
They
and
should
just
have.
flipped it.
With
It's
all
not
the
a card.
casino things,
Yeah.
where roulette tables flip.
Right.
You see, it's kind of like the night before you go to the dentist and you're like, better get to flossing.
Right.
So Asahara decided that the only course of action for the cult to take was to create a distraction so large that police would either have to postpone the raid indefinitely or forget about OHM altogether. And that's the thing that most people don't realize about the Shinrikyo attacks, that ultimately it wasn't really at that time about a death cult trying to bring about a Harumageddon. More accurately, it was a criminal enterprise trying to cover their tracks.
But this is where I will slightly argue, where I do believe, on one very practical way, it is this. They are a criminal enterprise trying to cover their tracks, and Asahara was trying to do that. He was trying to distract the police using the sarin gas attacks. But at the same time, his fascination with nuclear weapons and with building an army and the AK-47, his just general fascination with this concept he had called juicing. He wanted to juice people from the world, and
Like
this is
Willy
true.
Wonka?
Yes.
Went to squeeze the girl out?
He had part of his visions privately that he would talk with his most elite members with this idea of juicing people, which is getting rid of all of the people so that they have all the structures on the highways, so when OHM Shinrikyo is taking over in the post-Harumageddon world, they have everything they need because they're not exactly civil engineers. Like
I see.
as long as they got shops and shit, he can get people in there running everything, but he can't build them. And so his megalomania, his view, with the apocalyptic guruism he was doing, actually was a big part of it. He really did want to end the world.
He really did, but this was it was funny. It was like he was using the plan for Harumageddon to postpone until they were ready for Harumageddon.
That's the problem, is that's why he had to bump up the date.
Yeah.
He said, like, until then, he was still waiting on 1997 because he was trying to build this plasma weapon.
But the thing is about the plan for Harumageddon, about moving it up a little faster, moving it up a little closer, is that he didn't want to use the sarin attacks at first. He was like, okay, I want to
He had
save the
bigger
sarin
problems.
attack. Yeah, but he didn't want to use those attacks, the sarin attack at first. They tried a couple of different plans before they finally got to the sarin attack. His first idea, and it's got to be remembered that the guru had a head full of acid at almost all times.
But you gotta stay level.
Yeah, you do.
You don't want to meet me without my coffee. You don't want to meet Asahara without a head full of fucking weapons-grade LSD.
His first plan was to use a gigantic laser to slice the Tokyo Police Department's headquarters in half.
And they were like, what do you want us to make? He's like, we will make a plasma weapon most powerful. Young Sapien will show. And he's like, oh, look, he gave me fresh air. It's like this. Imagine fresh air, you turn it on and make everybody blare up. Young Sapien is most wise, aren't you, Young Sapien?
Yeah.
It comes from my most powerful tutelage. He's as blind as a goddamn closet door.
Not bad.
And after scientists patiently explained to Asahara that such a weapon was well beyond their capabilities, they eventually settled on what could only be described as a high-powered laser pointer.
Oh, they should have just made the police station into a toaster.
Exactly.
And then pushed it down.
Oh, you see?
And then toasted them.
You see?
Yeah, that's
These
what I
are
was doing.
ideas.
Those are
You
ideas.
need to be in the inner circle.
I should have been in there.
And the laser pointer idea really would have worked if this was the Fievel world and all
Yeah.
cops were cats. That would have been fine.
You can't stop thinking about earthquakes, and that's why you should always wear a seatbelt.
Always wear a seatbelt.
Yeah.
But would also his it's kind of like being a late night talk show host where you go out there and you say a bunch of ludicrous shit and you got a bunch of writers that are like, you have to come up with good reasons for why it won't work.
Yeah.
Right? And so what they said, their reason why they won't work is being like, we got all the plans, like plasma weapons a go. Technically, yes, these don't exist and nobody has them and this is not a thing.
Right.
But we have all the plans. The only problem is that we don't have enough power.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we got it. If we could harness all the power of Tokyo, which is fine, but we'd have to get a hold of the fucking grid.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other rigmarole. It's going to be paperwork. And Asahara's like, I don't got time for this. It's already 1995.
Right.
Yeah, because the original plasma weapon, like the super big one, it would have been large enough to fill 4 cargo planes, and they said that the noise that it made would have been so loud it could be compared to an artillery shell.
Oh.
So not inconspicuous.
What are you talking about? You can't get a concealed weapons permit for that?
Sure you can.
And the plan for the gigantic laser was to just shine it at the police department, and any cops who happened to be standing near the windows would be blinded instantly, which would cause pandemonium, which would cause the raid to be postponed.
We used to shine deer in Wisconsin.
That's what they
kinda
wanted.
similar, yeah.
It's like that. What you should have done is get old B. Arthur out there and fucking strip her nude.
Yeah, that's
Blind
a good
him instantly
distraction.
and have her walk down the street going, these boots are made for walk.
You're not wearing any
And
boots.
that's just what they'll do to
I
my
get it.
feet. These
Oh, I
boots
see.
today, they'll walk their way right all over you fat, ugly police officer.
Whoa, arrest her.
So after that plan proved to be unworkable, the next plan was to spray the entire city with LSD using the helicopter.
Fucking
But
yes,
yeah.
do it to me.
I wish that one went through.
Yeah,
that'd be
but the
kinda nice.
biggest roadblock to that was that Ohm was never actually able to get the helicopter off of the ground.
Tripping nuts. Yeah.
It is a problem. I got into a car once on too many mushrooms, and I remember getting in the car being like, it's easy. You just get in the car, you turn the fucking key on,
Right.
and you pull away and you drive. Do you drive every day? You can do this. Yeah, you're on mushrooms, but it's a car.
Yeah.
And then I get in, and the first thing I was like, this car's too big, I'm too small. Just 5 guys staring at a helicopter fucking cockpit. Just being like, I can't get it there, man. I got the fucking heebie-jeebies like
Tommy,
big time, bro.
You got to get up there and spin it. You got to spin it.
I was trying to do the fucking toggle switch, man, and it turned into a fucking snake, dude. It's like I'm fucking Noah, dude, or Moses, dude.
Very fun.
And they tried using little remote control helicopters instead, but every time they tried to fly them, they just kept crashing them into trees over and over again.
You know who tried to do the same exact thing? Who? Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead.
Isn't that exciting?
So then, in mid-March, Ohm got word that the raid had received an official date, March 21st, 1995. So with no options left, Ohm decided to use sarin gas, the only weapon that they had actually succeeded with. And as for their target, they chose the location that would cause the most chaos, the Tokyo subway.
This is intense. I love this breakdown for the subway as well that you do.
Unlike here in New York City, Tokyo, they have the most efficient subway system in the entire world. It carries 2.7 billion people a year, twice the number of people we have to deal with here in the city.
And I'm going to go out on a limb, too. The other thing is the Japanese people are more stackable.
They are actually.
They fit on each other's shoulders.
Yeah,
and because they're more physically able, they go hop, 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 and they all just fit in columns like totem poles.
Yeah, and they're much more of a uniform size. Here in New York City, it's a
all
melting
types
pot.
of sizes.
You got the shorts, you got the talls, you got
They're all
everyone.
very-
You have the Mayans, you have the Russians. There's so many different
and no,
people.
you don't stack a Russian.
No, can't stack a Russian.
No.
A Russian, they
They go,
crouch.
they go inside of each other. That's what they do.
So every single day, the Tokyo subway carried 5 million passengers and covered 470,000 miles. And yet, delays are remarkably rare, and Ohm would match the train system's efficiency in their ultimate plan.
Which is that's also the problem when you're too good at something.
Right.
Yeah.
Is you get used for that.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
And also, have you ever seen video on YouTube of people getting onto the Japanese subway
yeah.
station?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
They pack them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
They
everybody's
have a packer.
Yeah.
They have a packer. It is somebody's job to pack it.
to just go be like, can you imagine just
Grabbing butts.
what a pervert's
rock
fantasy that
hard.
job must
Yeah.
be? Just getting
Oh,
to
no.
press all of them against each
No,
other.
it's all eunuchs. It's all eunuchs.
You think so?
I think so. I think they have to take off the balls. Otherwise, they're going to be, felching.
But
Felching.
for no,
Felching, that's
no,
when
you're
you
talking about
suck
fraudage.
semen
No,
in.
no,
Yeah.
froturism. That's what I'm fraudage.
Yeah, felching is when you suck
Yeah.
semen out of a recently cummed-in butthole.
Oh no, I thought felching's when you step on a dead man. We've done this. We've
Okay.
done this. That's mulging. Mulking.
I'm not sure. Either way, the subway system is
But the
special.
thing is, but the Japanese people also they have a separate car for men and women.
No.
Is it Chinese?
Maybe they do at some places, but not in Tokyo.
They're not the same. That's for certain. I know that for certain.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as always, they chose the most cartoonish way possible to prepare for the attacks. The scout team they sent out consisted of 4 identically dressed men wearing beige jackets, navy blue pants, sunglasses, and gauze masks. The only one who dressed a little differently was the leader of the team, who had for some reason decided to wear a gigantic white wig on the mission. And these guys, they took notes on, and they were meticulous. They took notes on what time the trains arrived and departed, which car doors opened nearest what exits, and how long the doors stayed open.
They do.
like
They're
it.
very studious.
Yeah.
And they really worked very hard. And then when they asked the leader, being like, "Why are you wearing a wig to the reconnaissance mission?" He's just like, "I know we all stand together in unity, but the leader at some point must stand alone."
Yeah, channel is inner Marilyn Monroe.
So the plan was to hit 3 of Tokyo's biggest subway lines, the Hibiya, the Marunouchi, and the Chiyoda. And each team member was to carry 2 airtight plastic bags filled with 20 ounces of sarin solution, wrap those bags in newspaper so they would be less conspicuous, drop them to the ground at their appointed time and station, and puncture the packages with sharpened umbrellas and run away.
Like the penguin?
Like literally like a bunch of penguins.
But what if it's not raining that day?
I don't know. And you
Yeah.
look incredibly suspicious.
You have a wig, a bizarre air pack, and an umbrella with you.
Honestly, though, it does make me nervous since doing research on this specific
Oh, yeah.
series. Is that when I go on the train and it's sunny outside and I see a guy with an umbrella on it, I go like terrorists.
You have to scream it at him.
Now, if done correctly on each different line, the different trains would converge on Kasumagaseki Station, where the Tokyo Police Department was located, right as the shift change was happening, and right when the sarin gas had reached its highest potency, killing as many cops as possible.
Because the liquefied sarin gas is released and then it slowly breaks down, and as it decays, that's when it becomes the gas that becomes super super deadly, and it happens over a bunch of minutes. So the guys who popped the bags had time to run off the train without being hurt, and then it just drifts. And because it's so powerful and because they're so efficient, it would have taken it all the way to the heart of Tokyo.
You would say, in your expert opinion, this happens in a bunch of minutes.
In a bunch of you wouldn't believe how many minutes it's at least a handful of minutes.
It's a bunch of minutes, huh?
I hope everybody's got enough dollops of sarin gas, because we've only got 2 dollops of it. Then the shoots out of it won't be good enough to make everybody go cough cough.
Okay.
So
I'm the Rudy of scientists. Give him a shot. Give him a shot. Get him in there.
You're going to be a great dad. When are we there? A bunch of minutes.
So the 5 cultists chosen for this task were high-ranking, loyal members who had been a part of Ohm for years. First up was Dr. Ikuo Hayashi, the man behind Ohm's makeshift clinics. He had presided over dozens of tortures and medical experiments over the years. He was essentially Ohm's Mangala.
Yeah.
Next was Yasuo Hayashi, a dope fiend and electrical engineer whose specialties included abduction, wiretapping, and intimidation. The media would later dub him Killer Hayashi.
I'm so glad they changed my nickname to Killer Hayashi and not Dirty Diaper Hayashi like I was within
Yeah.
Shinrikyo.
You poop your pants one time.
One time,
One
everybody
time.
see. And I say, oh, I was just laughing too hard at a joke that the master made. And they all did. Oh, I get nicknamed Dirty Diaper Hayashi. But they'll see. Oh, they'll see.
6 years of killing later, he finally got it. Killer.
Then came Kenichi Hiroshi, an applied physicist who had graduated at the top of his class and had turned down a job offer at one of Japan's top electronics firms to join Ohm Shinrikyo. Then there was Masamoto Yokoyama, another physicist. Classmates remembered him as a quiet preppy who was super into bowling.
Masamoto, you really like bowling. Why you say I like bowling? Just like you talk about bowling when that one time
Yeah.
we went bowling, you talked about how much you have a good time. You like literally
Yeah.
bring it up.
I mean-
like once every third conversation, you talk about how much you like bowling. It's like I like bowling. It's team sport. It's also it's casual way to hang out. It's a good group date. I like bowling, but it doesn't everybody. Does it everybody like
I
bowling?
mean, we all like to bowl every now and again, but it does seem you have a fascination.
It just seems to be like it's a fun thing. You get to go out and it's chicken wing, and you get the beer, and you get to go and you boat. I mean, like I'm really alone.
You
in
usually
this.
do it alone.
Yeah, I do it alone. Yeah, because I'm
No
the only
woman.
one. Because everybody say how much they like to go bowling, but then I'm the only one who's really in a mood to go bowling. It's like
there- yeah.
karaoke. Everybody gets all mad because I bring up going to karaoke because I like to go karaoke, but no one ever really go.
So the 5th and final attacker was Toru Toyota, a particle physics graduate student. He was a what? Just because his last name's Toyota, you just sounds giggling?
Hello, my name is Brian Dodge Caravan.
It's a common name in Japan.
Okay, it just
Yeah.
seems like somebody who's like, not
It's-
Asian, who's just like, I'm going to go there and try to fit in. And, how do I assimilate into their culture? And
Hi, hello, my name is Gregory Wonton.
are you Asian?
Yes.
All right.
So Toyota, he was known to classmates for his spot-on impression of Shoko Asahara during Ohm's 1990 election campaign.
He would not have. I'm sure that Asahara did not know that he did that impression.
I guarantee you not. He was converted to Ohm only 2 years later by a fellow student. And as the 5 attackers were given their assigned subway lines, Chief Scientist Saiichi Endo was working as fast as he could, producing nearly 2 gallons of sarin solution. But thankfully, due to the rushed nature of the job, the solution ended up being only 30% pure, which saved thousands of lives.
You want it quick? You want it fast? You want it
You want
good?
done-
You can only get two of those.
Right.
Have we said that each time on this episode?
You want it done fast, you want it done right, motherfucker.
That's different than what Henry said.
No, it's pretty
You
much.
see, I've seen the sign that's done. It's like a Quippy sign. It's always
Yeah.
like in a TGI Friday. It's you want it fast, you want it good, or you want it cheap.
Right.
You can only get 2 of those.
Gas, or weed.
What?
Ass, gas, or grass,
Yeah.
no one rides for free.
Yeah. That's it.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's totally what it is. Yeah.
I would always get in cars with those people and be like, I don't have any grass. But I got it.
I got 2 feet ass.
I'm calling your bluff, motherfucker.
Oh yeah, and then they're just raping you behind a dumpster. I just wanted to go to Milwaukee.
Damn it.
So the night before the attack, Endo gave his final briefing in front of an image of Shiva. He handed the attackers 5 umbrellas whose tips he had personally sharpened with a lathe and watched them as they practiced their mission over and over again. Imagine this scene. 5 grown men sat and stabbed bags of water for hours upon hours on end, trying to find just the right pressure to use.
Again, remember, everybody's on LSD.
Yeah.
too hard, and the solution would spurt up into their face.
I just forget a lot, too, but it really is. Remember, these people are literally on drugs a lot of the time. These people are tripping balls.
Yeah.
They're handed in umbrellas. Can you imagine how heavy that is? To have a head full of acid and someone being like, you gotta be a terrorist tomorrow, buddy. Get your umbrella. You gotta stab these bags of water, man. Do it better. You gotta do it faster, dude. And you're just sitting there being like, is it good or is it bad? Did I do bad? Am I good?
I can't even watch How I Met Your Mother on acid because I just want to know the answer so bad. And they never really tell you.
So these guys, too fat, too hard, it's going to spurt up. Too soft, and the bag wouldn't get punctured at all. But ready or not, the next day, each agent was taken to their assigned station at 7 a.m. and entered their assigned target stations.
Now, technically, this attack is, we're going to get now into the famous attacks. Now, this is essentially Japan's 9/11, besides Hiroshima, which we did. So we don't really...
Nagasaki, we kind of did it twice.
We did it twice. But it's not, but they deserved it. They did bad things and they deserved it.
They didn't deserve it. We were just,
They did bad shit.
They saved a lot of lives.
We did. I think technically, there's a lot of revisionist history that goes back and forth.
We saved a lot of Russian lives. And,
but also
the Russians were our allies.
Japanese attack. Pearl!
Think about that. We did allow that.
We would not have had that shitty-ass Ben Affleck movie, that's for certain.
Oh,
if they hadn't done it.
Oh, yeah, who are we going to get to play FDR? Fuck, I don't know, Dan Aykroyd?
Why not?
He loves to sit.
Yeah.
But this is very serious.
Yeah, this is serious now. People died.
This is actually very, this is definitely Japan's 9/11. So Killer Hayashi, he was the first. He boarded the train at the Ueno station. And a few stops in, he calmly placed his bags on the ground, stabbed them as many times as he could, and elbowed his way off the train without anyone noticing what had happened.
The scene would be insane.
Yeah, but you also got to remember, this is rush hour. This is a rush hour. It's a rush hour train. It's filled with people. Everyone's going to work. No one's paying attention to the person next to them.
I don't look at
him
anybody
out.
on the train.
That's all I'm saying.
I just don't look at anybody on the train.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have you had an asshole just elbow his way through at like Grand Central or something?
I saw somebody panic and get off the train, and I got off the train.
Really?
Yeah, because they must have known something.
No, they probably just had a panic attack. That happens to me every once in a while. I'm extremely claustrophobic, so if a train's too tight, sometimes I have to get out and take a couple of breaths and
I
get
never
back on
go off
again.
the train because I got to get places.
Well,
even if I'm fucking about to throw up.
Toru Toyota, however, instead of not getting noticed at all, he had decided to wear elbow-length plastic gloves on his train car, but he still managed to puncture his bags without too much notice, as it is, after all, Japan, and you see weird shit all the time.
Fashion, yeah.
So Kenichi Hiroshi, he hit a small snag when the crowded train prevented him from taking off his backpack, which contained the sarin. And when he did finally manage to wriggle it off and take out the bags, he dropped them on the ground. But he still carried through his mission and was able to puncture his bags 5 stops from Kasumigaseki Station. And at the other end of the same line, Masato Yohama attempted to puncture both bags, but only managed to get one leaking before running off like the rest. And the last one, Dr. Hayashi, had second thoughts, the only one that had second thoughts, but still did his duty.
That's where there's a very interesting series on Netflix right now called 0 Hour that focuses on the day of certain big events in history that are normally horrible. And so they did one on these attacks. And Hayashi, it was very interesting because he was a doctor. When he was on the train, before he popped the bags, he was looking around just being like, I used to help people. I used to make people feel better. Like, why am I doing this? He's like, he said he looked across the train and saw a woman. He's like, when I puncture these bags, that woman will definitely die. And then what he did was what Asahara posed to them all the time is what we talked about, the Mahamudras and these nonsense things that he would ask, impossible things he would ask of the people in Shinrikyo in order to prove their faith. And so the way he got back into that thought loop of being like, this is an impossible thing I'm being asked to do, and I have to face it. I have to do it without questioning because that proves that I'm truly devoted. Yeah. Meanwhile, Asahara's smelling his nuts, counting money.
Yeah, I hate this guy.
Don't like him. No, he's not cool.
I don't like him at all.
The doctor or
the
Asahara?
Doctor?
Yeah.
No, Asahara. I mean, I kind of respect him for his sheer desire for a nuclear weapon, but This
I
guy.
kind of understand it.
Yeah.
All
get
of us
it.
want
I
to be
get it.
Asahara. He's also smart enough not to be doing these attacks.
Yeah.
He's, Yeah.
So by 8:15 a.m., all 5 assailants were in getaway cars heading back to the Ohm compound, and 9 bags leaking sarin gas on 5 subway cars were all headed toward the center of Tokyo. Now, first came the smell. Pure sarin has no scent, but Ohm's 30% batch was said to smell like a cross between mustard and burning rubber. One woman also described it as kind of smelling like rotten onions. And on one line, passengers were able to sniff out the source, and they kicked the leaky bag out the door, but it was far too late. Because the other thing about the way the sarin gas spreads is that there's so many commuters, there's so many people walking in and out of these trains, and the sarin gas is down on the ground. So every time people get off the train and get back on
The
again,
pressure literally puts it up.
it just pushes it up into the air.
Also, the traditional Japanese game of kick the stinky bag.
Yes, I love that game.
And it began with coughs and sniffles. Like, people described it as a train full of people all suffering from colds. And within seconds, people started collapsing to the ground. They started twitching. They started spasming. And at the next stop, dozens of passengers exited the cars. They were all coughing. They were all wheezing. But the train didn't stop and continued on after less than a minute, still on time.
Because people don't complain.
Yeah.
Right.
They
It's
literally were like not gonna complain. They were on their way to work. Nobody assumed that anything was bad was happening.
Yeah. Well, they knew something bad was happening, but they're just saying to themselves, I'll deal with it. I got to get to work. So at the next station, a woman collapsed and was carried off. But still, the train didn't stop. It took 3 stops before someone finally pressed the emergency button, as dozens were gagging and vomiting throughout the entire train car. So out of the dozens that rushed out, 5 collapsed immediately on the platform and started foaming blood from their mouths. And 3 more didn't even make it that far and lay on the floor of the car, rapidly dying. And above ground, hundreds of commuters were pouring from the subway exits. And while one would expect this to be absolute pandemonium, kind of something that you'd see on 9/11, people screaming, people yelling, the scene was almost silent because the sarin, it removed everybody's ability to speak. All you heard was just like coughing. And otherwise, it was just absolutely silent. And people collapsed on the ground. They're bleeding from their noses and their mouths, all without a word. I haven't seen pictures myself, but descriptions of the scene from helicopters, news helicopters above, it sounded like Jonestown.
Well, it's because people didn't know, again, what was happening.
No idea.
And because they have not had any sort of terrorist attack in Japan up until this point, and because it's such a nefarious, quiet weapon.
Yeah.
And it just snuck in. They were very smart. Like, Shinrikyo was right about the sarin gas. Like, it was because it just kind of spreads silently, and it's not like a bomb. Like, a bomb brings cops. A bomb brings police officers. Like, it brings a lot of attention. Like, this thing, it was crawled right up into the center of Tokyo.
It took them 2.5 hours to figure out what was going on.
Right.
They had no idea.
Make sure you check your carbon monoxide detectors.
Thank you,
Because
Pistol.
that's also a silent killer.
Thank you. That's actually very sweet of you to say that. Also, sometimes somebody will break in your house while at your work, and what they'll do is they'll hide in somewhere in your house, like in your closet or under your bed, and they'll be there all day because literally they're a psychopath bent only on torturing you to death, and they'll do that.
So
and
you want to check your carbon
they'll wait till you go to
monoxide.
sleep. Yeah, exactly. But they'll wait till you go to sleep, and then they come out and they do whatever it is they're going to do to you in the silence of the night. So
Right.
Yeah, so what was the point of scaring people like that?
I'm just saying, think about it all the time.
Right.
The other thing about this particular station, why it was particularly deadly, is that it was extremely small. It was one of the smallest stations on the line, so the gas spread to hundreds of people very quickly, and it was the deadliest of all the attacks. 8 people died here. 2,500 had permanent injuries.
But they also fucked it up. Because technically, this should have killed all of them.
Yeah.
Like, if this was really well made, sarin gas, everybody would have been dead.
Well, they knew that it wasn't going to be. They knew that it wasn't going to be a gigantic, like thousands of people dead, because it was only 30% pure. That was the best they could do.
But Asahara didn't know. To be honest, Asahara did not know. He was expecting a shutdown of the entire city.
Right. And Endo's just kind of keeping it from him.
Yeah,
he knows that it's not going to be that great, but he knows it's going to be enough. It's just not going to be enough for the man whose appetite was described as, quote, unbelievable.
Yes, and it's also probably the first time a Japanese person ever settled for a C.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not good.
So on a different line, the Hibaya line, the flow of vomit from passengers was near constant. It covered the floors of the trains. And through it all, the trains continued to run. And on the Chiyoda line, Station Master Tsuneo Hishinuma removed Dr. Hayashi's package and took it to his office with the help of a colleague. And when supervisors found them minutes later, they were found lying on the floor, bubbles of blood foaming from their mouths. And while Hishinuma undoubtedly saved dozens of lives, both he and his coworker would succumb to their injuries and die soon after. And while most exposed to the gas did not die, the injured numbered in the thousands.
Yeah.
Hospitals were in absolute chaos, and nobody had any idea what had happened. They didn't know how to treat any of these people. And thousands of patients were spread across 30 different hospitals. They're blind, they're vomiting, they're disoriented, they're going into seizures, and nobody has any idea what's going on.
Because that's actually the most nefarious thing about poisoning, is that unless you know what you're looking for, it is very, very difficult to find out what's happening to somebody. That's why, like, those stories about, like, a wife killing her husband over, like, 2 years, like, slowly poisoning them, they just don't know because you have to go looking for the agent. You have to know what you're looking for.
Yeah, it took 2.5 hours before a military doctor finally recognized it and finally said, like, oh, holy shit, this looks like sarin gas. And then they finally did the tests on it, and they found out that's exactly what it was.
And also, each one of the deliverers of the sarin gas had a antidote syringe.
Yeah, there is an antidote for sarin gas.
Yes, and so they were given that. So that once they left the train stations, their instructions were there were cars waiting for them. They got in their cars. Each one had a cup of water. They took their umbrella. They washed the tip of their umbrella in the cup of water, threw out the umbrella, and then gave themselves the antidote just in case. And only one of them actually got some of the gas into his system.
That's kind of fun. So it was a situation where the sentence like, "Give me the antidote," was uttered.
That did happen.
Yeah, that is really cool.
I never thought that was real for the longest time.
It does happen, too. If you get bit by a snake.
Sure.
You will
have to get
probably...
then you have to get bit by an alligator, and then you get cured.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I thought that was just deadly folklore.
No. You get bit by a snake, then you have to get bit by an alligator. Then, of course, you've got to go eat an egg.
You're the worst doctor of all time.
I'm a fluffer.
Oh, you're
misread.
a fluffer
I'm
for
a
porn sets.
Yes.
Good.
I told
not a
you.
doctor.
You said doctor. I said fluffer.
I guess Obamacare.
Yeah, well, come on. Pull him down.
So while the hospitals were filling up with people, the trains continued to run the entire time. At one stop on the Marunouchi line, a station master removed the bag with a broom and dustpan before the train moved on, but the gas from that bag had already spread through the car, killing 2 and injuring hundreds inside.
This is a day you can call in sick.
It's
just
true.
Hop off the train, go to a TGI Fridays, margaritas at noon.
No,
But at the same time, in New York, and I rely on the trains, I kind of wish we had a little bit more of this discipline. Because sometimes
that's
it's
true.
been like, I don't care if there's a guy randomly stabbing people in that other fucking train car.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see... Fucking, they're doing a screening of 2001.
Yeah. Gotta get to IFC.
Get him out of there. Just push him and then keep the train going. Yeah. And besides the dozens that were severely ill, Ben, you're talking about like taking a day off. Thousands still reported to work that day with minor symptoms and sent sarin sticks to the victims' clothes. The gas was spread even further. In fact, many commuters just stepped over people collapsed on the ground so they could make it to work on time.
It's so interesting how people, obviously it's very important in their lives, and it reminds me of the secretary in 9/11 during 9/11 I forget what floor.
Yeah.
But she was just like, he needs to get his paperwork done today, and it's like the buildings are falling down.
Yeah, and she's still on the phone, and the firefighters are coming in like, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like, well, he's got some appointments.
Okay, I want to congratulate you on being the world's hardest worker. Good work.
Here's your certificate.
Yeah.
Now you're
good?
fired because literally the offices are gone.
Yeah.
So in all, 169 hospitals will report sarin cases over the next few days and weeks. Over 5,500 would be physically afflicted in one way or another by the attacks, not to mention the thousands of cases of hardcore PTSD. It's the most gruesome of all the physical ailments that I heard about. One woman was admitted to the hospital after the gas had fused her contacts to her eyeballs.
Ooh.
They had to surgically remove her eyes.
But at the same time, doesn't that technically completely fix your eyesight?
Yeah, it's sort of like you don't even have to get the LASIK surgery
Yeah,
anymore.
it seems
It's a
like
permanent.
it.
It's almost like, why didn't anyone ever think of just spraying sarin gas in the faces of people who wear contacts?
That's only if your doctor's a fluffer.
Oh yeah.
Now, as for the perpetrators, they returned to the compound, burned their clothes, threw their umbrellas into the river, and were congratulated by Asahara himself. He said,
It is good that the victims lost their souls to this holy leader. And to Shiva.
You seem very casual about this.
Oh, I am. What's that smell? Ah, yes, my testicles.
and as far as how the people of Tokyo reacted, the very next day, the trains were running on time
I
again.
just got a fucking. It's great.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Take a day.
I say take a day, but what do we know?
Yeah,
That's why they're gonna beat it. That's why they're beating us in science fairs.
Yeah.
Now, instead of drawing attention away from them as they had hoped, suspicion for the attacks immediately fell on Ohm.
Of course.
Because what Asahara had somehow forgotten was that he had been name-checking sarin in his sermons for literally months before the attack. They had
Right.
even written a song about it, which they published in their cult science manual. It resembled the company anthems that Japanese factory workers apparently sing every morning.
People are happy to work in other countries.
They are. They like to sing.
Yeah, the song was called Song of Sarin, the Magician, of which we have the full lyrics.
It came from Nazi Germany, a dangerous little chemical weapon, sarin. Sarin, if you inhale the mysterious vapor, you will fall with bloody vomit from your mouth. Sarin, sarin, prepare sarin. Immediately poisonous gas weapons will fill the place. Spray, spray, sarin, the brave sarin.
What a bunch of nerds. Good God.
They had a songwriter hanging out.
And they just stole it from Simon and Garfunkel, the sound of silence, or whatever.
I don't know.
Sound of Sarin.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard that Sia actually wrote one of those songs.
Oh.
Who's Sia?
I want to swing from the chandelier.
No.
She doesn't have the face. She dances with the child.
I don't know.
She's got the child in it.
I'm not sure.
Shia LaBeouf's in
I
it.
think you made this up.
No, Sia. I know what I'm talking about.
Well, because of the sermons, because of the song, people had a pretty good idea who had perpetrated the attack. But really, they had a hard time believing it because in the public's mind, Aum Shinrikyo, they were just a goofy collection of weirdos. They were known mostly as like those guys who wore the elephant mask back in the 1990 election. Asahara himself, just another talk show guy.
They thought he was like Richard Simmons.
Yeah,
Right.
he was the guy they brought in when they wanted something weird. It would be like if, like, after Oklahoma City happened, that we found out that it was like that fucking Vermin Supreme guy from New Hampshire, or it was
Yeah.
like the Flying Spaghetti Monster people. People, they couldn't fucking put it together in their heads.
Yeah.
Where was Vermin Supreme?
I think he was at a TGI Friday.
Oh, good.
So 2 days after the attacks, police conducted the first of 50 raids on the compound where they found cyanide, hydrochloric acid, chloroform, every chemical needed to produce sarin, $7.9 million in cash, 22 pounds of gold, and dozens of emaciated followers rotting away in makeshift prisons.
Bachelor pad.
Oh, so fun. I love that they threw away the umbrellas. But they just kept every chemical that would be needed to
This is
make
evidence.
sarin
We
gas.
can't have this hard evidence.
Well,
in
they
here.
destroyed hundreds of pounds of mustard gas. They got rid of as much as they could
I
in the
see.
time.
They
because-
had too much.
Yeah, they just had too much. The enterprise had just gotten too big.
Please tell me, the last time, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like trying to move out of my apartment.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even imagine, when you have a whole compound,
Yeah.
the knickknacks you leave, all the drawers that you forget. It's like, I don't know how many times I open up a drawer and be like, oh, weapons grade plutonium.
Yep. Don't even remember that. Don't remember buying that. And then you lull.
What they didn't find, though, was corpses. The only thing that police found in the basement of Seitan 7 was the microwave and 80 blackened metal drums. That means that they had incinerated at just on their compound, 80 people.
Yep.
And we don't even know how many others they just let die where they lay. We don't know how many they buried around the countryside, like just of their own followers and just of people that may have crossed them. 80.
They
at
just
least.
assumed they were making 80 barrels of premium smoked human scotch.
Yeah, that could be good.
And despite all of this, police still refuse to implicate the cult in the subway attack or arrest anyone for
Well,
murder.
there's still the fern with the parrot outside, so they're not convinced it's not a zoo.
No, they're pretty sure it's a zoo, and they definitely had a snake. And also, but I don't know why the Japanese police literally just wanted to see a skeleton with like a sign on, being like, "They did it."
Yep.
Like that's what they wanted. That's what they needed. I can't die.
This is how afraid the cops were of Asahara, and how afraid they were of Om Shinrikyo, or at least how afraid they were of fucking up the case against him. One ex-follower came to the compound after the attacks to finally free his children, but as the guy was leading the kids to his car, police stopped him and arrested him for trespassing. And as the guy was being handcuffed, a bunch of Om members came out of the compound, were handed the children by the police, and took him back inside.
Om Shinrikyo, and you bring this up here, they definitely had somebody either well within the police department or the military.
Or they had something on somebody really high up, which I think is much more likely.
I don't know if they had something on somebody. It's just they were generating so much cash, and they were involved with the Yakuza. And so there's so many weird interconnections between the criminal world and the government and the police system in Japan that it's like, it's just all one family.
Yeah.
So everybody's just trying to ignore what they thought was just a pesky little brother problem. They just thought it was just like Om Shinrikyo was just kind of an embarrassing thing, but whatever, we'll kind of deal with it because they're making us money. So basically laundering money for all these drugs and weapons and shit. But no, now they're biting the hand that feeds them.
Yeah, absolutely. So by day 6, investigators had surmised that Om Shinrikyo was capable of producing enough sarin to kill over 4 million people. And while Ohm was in fact in defensive mode for those first few days, they're doing press conferences, they're trying to blame it on the Americans, they're saying we couldn't produce sarin, the only people who could produce sarin are professionals, like those in the U.S. military.
Yeah, so that's why they're doing the Harumageddon thing.
Yeah, they're doing
so they were pushing forward, which is really interesting because the plan was falling apart underneath their feet, but Asahara had enough focus to be like, no, we need to flip it now.
Yeah.
Like, if we can flip it, this is what I've been talking about. I am right. I do have the prophecy in line.
Yeah, they started to get real fucking proactive here. So at dawn, about 10 days after the attack, Takaji Kunimatsu, the official head of the Ohm investigation, was shot 4 times in the back with a .357 Magnum revolver from 30 yards away. To hit a moving target in the dark with a revolver that had such a big kick, that was something that only a few people in the entire country could pull off.
I think it's like one of those things, you know, when your buddy's on a lot of drugs and he does something really ludicrous and it's just kind of like a guy who could survive, like
Doc Ellis throwing the no-hitter on acid.
LSD. It's like one of those where it's just like, it just kind of was the perfect mix of being on drugs. You just don't give a fuck and you can make something, you can make a miracle
The
happen.
toxicology reports on Lee Harvey Oswald, he was full of mushrooms.
Yeah. Tripping balls.
Yeah. Well, actually, what investigators believe is that it was either the assassin either had to be a cop, a member of the military, or somebody who had been very trained by somebody overseas, most likely Russia. So the Ohm PR campaign chugged on. Leaders started appearing on TV shows so often that they became household names. And the most visible of all of these leaders was a man named Fumihiro Joyu, handsome fella, who always appeared wearing turquoise pajamas.
Ooh.
Joyu became an overnight sensation with the ladies, who were dubbed Joyu Gals. And Joyu Gals, they admitted to having dirty dreams involving the PR man, with one girl saying,
He took me to strange basement room and then we made love.
Why'd you laugh like that?
Because he did not know. Me did not have vagina.
You're a man.
Yes.
but the
Are you even Asian?
Yes.
But the horror was not over for the people of Japan. Although not all of the horror would come from Ohm. On April 19th, commuters thought that they had once again been victims of a subway gas attack outside of Tokyo, but the perpetrator was found to be a small-time gangster who had sprayed mace because of, as he said, personal problems.
I thought it was
Right.
hairspray.
No, but it's interesting, like after 9/11, do you remember that small plane that hit the buildings that was
Oh, yeah, the city
pilot was
shut down in
the pilot was a
Queens.
former Yankee.
Yeah.
But it was a much smaller attack.
Yeah.
But man, we thought that was just 9/11 was happening again.
Yeah, but you know what also happened on April 19th, 1995? Oklahoma City. Oh. Yeah, so this attack got a little overshadowed. But let's also remember this. How long did it take us to get Timothy McVeigh?
Oh, a long time.
2 days.
Yeah, a long
Oh,
time.
yeah, we got him real
Well,
we
that's
got him
easy.
good.
Yeah,
well, we
he was-
actually wanted to get him.
Yeah.
Well, we almost didn't get him. Well, we talked about that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we're definitely gonna do an Oklahoma City
Yeah.
episode in the future.
But I got to say, again, not to be like this, we just do things with a little bit more flair.
Well, I mean, just a quick thing with Oklahoma City: just get your license tags renewed.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
what got them. They have these huge plans, and the smallest little detail is what derails them so many times.
Always.
Ted Bundy, you lose the lug wrench. You know what I mean? You lose
Yep.
the thing.
Absolutely. And even though the victims of the attack itself were front and center, there were still other victims of Ohm to consider, mainly the former cult members.
Right.
I mean, there were thousands of people on the compound that were extremely devoted to Ohm Shinrikyo, and then all of a sudden, these people are starting to filter out, and they're having to try to reintegrate them into society. And
Listen-
it does not go that well.
No.
So a part of what's really interesting about the book Destroying the World to Save It by Robert J. Lifton, as I've been reading from, is that it includes a lot of kind of debriefing sessions with people that have come out of Ohm Shinrikyo and are trying to be rehabilitated. And this is some of the shit they've said about their time in Ohm Shinrikyo. There's one man in Isoda who was short and stocky and bald, but he said he was very arrogant. To put it bluntly, I am arrogant. Rather than believing just in Asahara, I believe in myself. I have the belief that I am a great person, so I will survive. I think my personality is like Shoko Asahara's personality. When I walk down the street, most of the time I'm imagining things. And in Ohm, when you imagine things in that way, it was about Armageddon. Rather than thinking that Asahara was above me, I felt more like we were equal. That's one reason why I left. Because there cannot be two leaders. So that's one guy. And then here's another one.
What a dickhead.
Unbelievable. This guy named Yano, who talks about the way another one of them, the POA validations. In Shin Buddhism, there is a paradox. Bad people may be closest to the Pure Land and may have a real moment of salvation. So perhaps we can say that Asahara is the one closest to the Pure Land. So it's like this concept where it's like literally
Yeah.
they after the fact they have left Ohm Shinrikyo. They already knew that the sarin attacks were done by Ohm Shinrikyo, and they are still validating it. That's
Yeah.
how deeply they were programmed within the world of Ohm Shinrikyo. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, and the people that were so far below that had absolutely nothing.
No
even-
clue.
Had no clue. They continue to live in delusion. They refused to believe that Asahara had anything to do with the attacks at all. One of them said, "The only thing I am afraid of is that if Asahara disappears from this world, I won't be able to attain enlightenment." Like, it's still that intense hold of, if without the guru, all is lost. Without the guru, I go to hell.
Right.
I mean, it is such intense brainwashing. But most disturbing of all, as far as the people that they had rescued from the compound, were the children. And while the kids, they seemed to progress nicely for the most part, because, kids can adapt, they can change, teachers would often return to their classroom after leaving the kids alone for a little while to find messages like Master Asahara and "Let's keep up with the training" scrawled on the blackboard.
But that's good. That's a good message.
It is a good message. Also, yeah, I mean, that's why, you got to do with kids. I was talking about Natalie last night. We have a long thing. It's like, you know what you got to do? 10th birthday, take them out to the middle of a field, right? Say, we're going to Chuck E. Cheese. I'm like, oh, yeah, Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah. And you put a blindfold on them. You're like, I want to surprise you. Then you drop them off in the middle of the forest with a bag of supplies and 2 sticks and say, make it back home.
You're from Queens. At no point did your parents do that.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. That's the problem. That's a problem with
Right.
me. I'm not trained.
No, you couldn't even make it out to the middle of the field.
Yeah, but my kid will.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
No, I mean, you couldn't even make it out to the middle of the field to drop your kid off in the middle
Yeah,
of
I
the field.
drive. I'm driving.
You're going to drive, open the door, kick the kid out.
Yeah, make it back. And when they make it back, we'll have a full pizza party. And if not, Mom and Dad are available for fucking again.
Yeah, that's nice.
Just make another one.
Yeah, that's what you can do.
Possibly the most terrifying of Ohm Shinrikyo's attempted attacks came on May 5th, 1995, Children's Day. And that morning, investigators found a flaming bag in the bathroom of a subway station. They quickly put it out. But Yeah, I know.
You're right. Yeah.
He's meddling kids. God damn it.
It's Dookie again.
So when the bag was inspected further, investigators found 2 condoms. One filled with sodium cyanide, the other with sulfuric acid. And when combined, these chemicals produce Zyklon B. It kills within minutes.
So it wasn't Dookie.
It was
So that's worse. That's like when your buddy takes a prank like a little too far away.
Right.
That's still a little too
like
far.
when you
That's not
when you
funny.
upper shelf somebody where you shit in the not in the toilet.
That's not funny. One time I put a can of tuna up inside my buddy's car, up in the seat of his car, and he got really upset after a while.
But then-
Actually sort of set a permanent rift in our friendship.
yeah, but then like you just responds by like killing your mom.
Yes.
Then it's just like
Taking it too far.
Yeah.
And had the police not prevented the acid from eating through one condom into the other, the Zyklon would have been sucked up into the restroom ventilation system, spread across the nearby platform, and killed up to 20,000 people
Oh my
within minutes.
Unbelievable.
20,000.
Wow.
And it was literally a minute and a half away from reacting. Like the
Stomping on it like a bunch of jerks. That's what stopped it, is them just being like, gotta put this out. You know what I mean? Like, that's all it was. Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. And 2 months after the sarin attack, after arresting and interrogating hundreds of OM members, cops decided they finally had enough evidence to pin Asahara himself to the crime. In fact, cops had known for months that Asahara was hiding out in the main Tokyo compound after noticing the copious amounts of melons, the guru's favorite fruit, were being delivered to the compound.
Only a big fat man can eat this many melons.
So under cover of fog on May 16th, 1995, police raided the compound and found Shoko Asahara hidden in a tiny chamber, dressed in purple, as always, and meditating. And at his side was over $100,000 in cash, some medicine, and a cassette player. He told police he had been there for only 2 days, but his matted, greasy beard, along with what author David Kaplan called, quote,
An unholy aura of rancid body odor.
it told a different story.
I'm glad how many bad guys end up in holes.
Oh, yeah,
it happens all
Saddam
the time.
Hussein ended up in a hole.
This
you
is
know?
the problem. Why did you say why end up Adolf Hitler?
Adolf Hitler ended up in a hole.
You go to your hole.
Go to your hole.
You made a mistake. Go to your hole.
And even though Asahara would be arrested, a few days later, 4 separate Zyklon B attacks would be attempted in one 24-hour period, and all of them were foiled by firefighters and cops, and every single one of them would have killed tens of thousands of people. If they would, you're talking, if all 4 of them would have happened, you're talking 80,000 people.
Yeah, true terrorist attacks. But it's very interesting how they all just they were flailing at this point.
Yeah.
Because once he was gone, once the head of the snake was really cut off of Shinrikyo, it really because that's the problem with the guru-led death cult.
Yeah.
Is that they all were supposed to be him. They all looked towards him. He was the replacement of their personality. And once that's gone, there's nothing.
Yeah.
The army and all that shit is just a hollow thing now. Like, you don't have the motivation anymore, and it falls apart.
Yeah. So Asahara was taken in and charged with 27 counts of murder. 9 years later, in 2004, Asahara, along with 13 other cultists, were found guilty and were sentenced to death by hanging, a sentence that still has not been carried out. To this day, Asahara and his followers sit in prison. And since his capture, Asahara, he has lost his mind. And so a prison psychiatrist diagnosed him with severe incarceration psychosis, meaning that Asahara's brain had essentially been broken by imprisonment, just like he broke so many of his followers when they crossed him. In other words, karma's a bitch, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's what happens. You write that check, you have to cash that check.
Ooh, I would. Yeah. I love it. Awesome.
But I also,
Hell yeah.
I'm glad it happened to him. Fuck him.
Yeah, fuck him.
I hope
I don't
he's
have a
gibber.
lot
I
of-
hope he sits in a pile of his own shit for the rest of his life until he hangs and then shits himself one last time.
Ooh, and then makes a little drug.
Ooh, can you imagine how
Dookie drug.
How fucking? I bet if you ate his dookies, you
Honestly,
trip balls.
Yeah, what part of the body would you eat of a person who's taken a bunch of acid? Would the brain make you trip nuts?
Nah, no. It says it's in the spine.
It's in the spine.
I
yeah,
actually
give him a
ate-
spinal tap.
I ate at a restaurant that had served lamb spine, and it's delicious. It's like chicken wing, but for lamb meat. It's like a little kind of little barbed spine. You suckle the meat out of the little fucking crevices of it. It's
You're going to like a weird hell. It's gonna be strange.
I just know that's why it's like something in my blood. When I go to a farm, animals run from me.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right, that's a 4-parter and Shinrikyo. Marcus, how is your brain feeling?
I feel free.
Yes.
Up until the next one. So I feel free for the next 12 hours or so.
I just kind of feel like Asahara was right.
Yeah.
After all this reading, I'm kind of ready for Harumageddon.
Yeah.
And this all started because of a stupid magazine. What was it? Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone magazine.
Twilight Zone
yeah.
magazine.
He fake levitated, and that started this whole damn thing.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
can't believe it. And
All
one
right.
thing we got to say right now, fucking Chicago, man. We're coming to Chicago on May 7th, and shit, we sold out the first show in like an hour and a half. We're thinking about doing a second show. We're thinking about doing a matinee at like 4 o'clock.
That would be all ages.
Yeah, and the matinee would be all ages. So if you guys...
Yeah, but not like 9 years old.
No, it would be all ages.
You can come if you're not. If you're 9 listening to this, go to bed.
Well, depending on what time.
Kill your mom.
All right, don't do that. Jesus. Obviously, that's satire.
Yeah, but if you're interested in a 4 o'clock show, get a hold of us. Go on our Facebook group. Get a hold of us on Twitter at LP on the Left. Get a hold of us on Instagram at LP on the Left. Send us an email at cavecomedyradio.com. Let us know in the next couple of days, and if we get a good enough response, then yeah, we'll totally do a second
Absolutely.
show on Saturday, May 7th in Chicago.
I cannot wait to get a hot Italian beef.
Oh,
I'm
man.
not being gay at all.
I want a hot
No.
dog. I want a hot dog.
You'll get a
can get
hot
a
dog,
hot
and you
dog.
can get your hot Italian beef in.
Have you ever had one?
Yes, I've had it. It's just
Have you?
it's a hot dog.
No, it's not. No, a hot Italian beef's a big fucking wet meat fucking thing. You stick your mouth
Thanks so
up
much
all
for
in it.
supporting the Patreon page.
Yeah, patreon.com/last podcast on the left. If you guys want to go and support us, thank you so much to every single person that's supported us so far. If you want your own t-shirt, go to cavecomedyradio.com/merch and buy yourself a t-shirt there.
Check out the Lucky Bone Show, Roundtable of Gentlemen, page 7, Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, Sex and Other Human Activities.
Yes, that's right. And Henry's, as I said earlier, Henry's going to be guesting on
Yes.
page 7 the next few weeks.
Yeah.
While Molly's getting married.
Man is getting married. What a mistake.
I know.
You can check us out on Instagram at LP on the Left, and also me on Instagram at Dr. Fantasty if you want to. Also, for some reason, I'm on Snapchat. And I don't
you
know
on
what
it?
it is.
What are you doing with
It's
it?
dumb.
See,
Nothing.
that's
I'm doing
now-
face swap.
Yeah, face swap. Oh, we're
I've been
having
doing
a
the
lot
face
of
swap.
We're having a
Yeah.
lot of fun with face swap. Yeah, I'm face swapping myself with a bunch of albums and put it on my
Yeah.
Instagram.
It is
At
fun.
Face
Marcus
swap your,
Marks,
you can face swap your face on a butt. It'd be a butt face.
Yeah, someone did a face swap with all of us and yesterday, and I got to see what I would look like with tits. And
Oh, was
I
that a woman?
Yeah, well, she had breasts, Ben.
I didn't really look at the picture that hard. No, I didn't look. I just looked at the faces. I couldn't sexualize the.
You don't sexualize anything.
No. Maybe a water glass or something.
breasts.
Breasts. All right. Yeah. Marcus Barks on Twitter. Henry loves you on Twitter. I'm at Ben Kissel on Twitter.
Hail Satan.
Hail yourselves.
Algain.
Hail me.
And Sakahara. Is that his name?
Asahara.
Sakahara. Asahara.
We just talked about him
Suck
for
it
like
for
5
4
hours.
Yeah.
Asahara?
Asahara.
Sahara.
Don't kill everybody, okay?
Yeah. No one, please.